Dear brethren, let us listen to the words of the Lord as they are written in the Gospel according to John, chapter 13, verses 31 through 38. Gospel according to John, chapter 13, verses 31 through 38. So when Judas had gone out, Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified, and God is glorified in him. If God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and glorify him immediately. Little children, I shall be with you a little while longer. You will seek me, and as I said to the Jews, where I am going you cannot come. So now I say to you, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, as I have loved you, that you also love one another. By this all will know that you are my disciples, if you have love for one another." Simon Peter said to him, "Lord, where are you going?" Jesus answered him, "Where I am going you cannot follow me now, but you shall follow me afterward." Peter said to him, "Lord, why can I not follow you now? I will lay down my life for your sake." Jesus answered him, "Will you lay down your life for my sake? Most assuredly I say to you, the rooster shall not crow till you have denied me 3 times. Will you lay down your life for me, my sake? Most assuredly I say to you, the rooster shall not crow till you have denied me 3 times. Amen. Dear brethren, slowly we are going through John's description of the Last Supper. And I asked you previously, and I keep reminding you because not everybody is here on every Sunday, to try to imagine that you are at that table that we reference to as the Last Supper. We are there with Jesus and his disciples, and we just found out that Jesus identified who will betray him. And he gave, if you remember, a piece of bread to Judas. Judas took that bread and then immediately left the room into the night. And he went, we all know where he went to fulfill the betrayal. Now, at this moment, Judas left, and we have at the table Jesus with his 11 disciples. And he's talking about glory. Yet, obviously, we know the outcome of the story. We know that not only betrayal is at hand, that Jesus already predicted, but we also know that the scourge and the beating is just behind the corner. And in this moment is when Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified." What do you mean, Jesus, now the Son of Man is glorified? Because if we are present or would have been present in that room, knowing that, as I mentioned, the betrayal is around the corner, the arrest, the mockery, the scourging, the crucifixion, we would be tempted to ask Jesus, if it's suffering around the corner and everything, where is the glory in this? And dear brethren, that is precisely the point that Jesus is trying to make. He is at the doorstep of his suffering. I mentioned earlier that the hour has come. The betrayal already started, it's in motion. And as soon as Judas went out into the night, Jesus talks about glory and speaks of being glorified. Why do you think he did that? Well, Jesus as a good shepherd, I believe wants to direct the attention of his disciple from the outward appearances to the inward meaning or spiritual meaning of this. Because, let's be honest, the cross is the symbol of shame, right? Even in the Bible context. The Old Testament law declared, he who is hanged is accursed of God. Then in Galatians, the Apostle Paul repeats this and says, well, Christ has redeemed us from the curse of the law, having become the curse for us. For it is written, cursed is everyone who hangs on a tree. Can you just imagine, we who are living 2,000 years later? I don't know what's going on in your life when you think about the crucifixion, about the scourging of Jesus. And I know I'm talking about me. When I think about it, and obviously there are a lot of Hollywood movies that can help us imagine a little bit like what could have happened. But when you just think about Jesus being dragged on the streets, being spit upon, and even if you put aside that he was the incarnate Son of God, how could ever somebody do that to another human being? Right? He was declared by the law no fault in him. Yet he is beaten so severely that his body, the flesh of his body was cut with the whips. And literally, you could count and could see and count the bones, as the Psalm 22nd Psalm predicted it. And you look at this, and your stomach turns upside down. And if that happens to us 2,000 years later, what do you think Jesus' disciples felt and went through when they saw this happening in reality with their own eyes, as it was? They were definitely overwhelmed, for lack of a better word, right? But it could have shattered their faith. And Jesus, being, as I said, a good pastor, he knows how difficult it will be for his disciples. So he wants to encourage them and talks to them about this, that this is for the glorification of God. And don't be surprised when you will see the cross and you will see the scourging and all that. Because I predicted you that when it happens, to know that this is also part of God's plan. So, God is glorified in that. Now the Son of Man is glorified, he says. Not after the cross, not after the resurrection, but now is already glorified. It means that something, it could be the greatest paradox of our faith, something that was the lowest point of shame in our faith, at the same time becomes the highest place or greatest place of exaltation. And all that happened in the cross. Now, those who joined our evangelism class, they know something important that is revealed here, is that God is just. Through this, the justice of God is revealed, because sin is not overlooked. We know that God must punish sin. If he does not punish sin, he is not just and he is not holy. Holiness cannot allow sin to mingle with unholiness. So because he is just and he is holy, he must punish sin. But the good news is that he is not only just and holy, because if God would be only just and holy, we would have no chance. We would never go into heaven, because none of us is perfect. All have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. But we also know from evangelism class that God is love. And he loved us so much that he came up with a plan. And the plan is to give his only begotten Son for us. Jesus died on the cross, and that was the plan of salvation. So God is not only that he loves us, he is wise, because he came up with a plan. And the plan was that through Jesus Christ, that's whatever he endured, all the sins we've committed is placed upon him. And he dies on the cross, and then resurrects to life. And through resurrection, he also shows that he is powerful. He has power over Satan, and he has power over death. And you can see, dear brethren, that nowhere shines the glory of God more clearly than on Calvary. And Jesus said, "Now the Son of Man is glorified." But he also says, God is glorified in him, in the Son of Man. So God is glorified, God the Father is glorified because of the Son. This is not a hiccup in God's plan. It was the plan all along. And then Christ continues, if God is glorified in him, God will also glorify him in himself and glorify him immediately. In other words, the cross obviously is not at the end of the story. It's a pathway that must be taken in order to achieve something much better, salvation. And the cross just revealed to us the glory of God. And this is important for us because this oftentimes can happen to us. Maybe on a smaller scale that it happened to Jesus. But just think of it. If you become a follower of Christ and if you witness Jesus Christ to others, you talk about Jesus to others, what could happen to you? Some might reject you, right? Some maybe will cause you difficulties in life. Maybe you can also lose your job. Some might misinterpret it. And no matter why the reason is that they might reject your confession, you should never be surprised, because Jesus talked about this before. I know I said it last week and it seems like it was a long time ago. Actually, in reality, it happened only a couple of moments ago that Jesus said to his disciples, "Most assuredly I say to you, he who receives whomever I send receives me. And he who receives me, him who sent me, he who receives me receives him who sent me." What he says is obviously the negative is also true. That if we do not receive Jesus, we do not receive him who sent him, the Father. And if people do not receive whomever Jesus sends, they reject the Father as well. And what I do want to bring to your attention is that you should never ever think that if you are witnessing, you're left on your own. Jesus Christ is always with you. Through his Holy Spirit is with you. And while you may leave God and wander on different ways, he will never leave you nor forsake you. And he will be with you in your witnessing. And this is what he's talking about to his disciples. And then he had this talk about glory and turns quickly. His voice seems to be a little tender one. And he says, "Little children, I shall be with you a little while longer. You will seek me, and as I said to the Jews, where I am going, you cannot come. So now I say to you, a new commandment I give to you, that you love one another as I have loved you, that you also love one another." So let me go back on memory lane a little bit, because this year is exactly 20 years that I have completed my seminary studies. We are still talking about the reunion, and some of my classmates already know with certainty that my flight is cancelled, but the air flight company did not confirm that, but they are sure that it is cancelled and I will not be able to attend. Anyway, we are talking about it. Either I'll be in person or in spirit, we shall see. But the point I'm trying to make is that exactly 20 years ago when we finished our studies, we had to, this is the custom in, and that's the part of graduation, you had to write a small thesis called Little Pastor's Thesis. This is how we call it. And you could dive deep in any topic you wish. Mine was on the disciples of Jesus. And the moment I started to work on this sermon, I remember that, there's a story I included. I couldn't recall exactly how it is, but I knew where to look for. So I blew the dust off my thesis and I looked at it, and I knew, even I was surprised to know that I know where to look for. And it is about the Apostle John. A cute little story. It's based on church tradition. I don't say it is actual historical fact. It could be, but the church tradition has it, and we all know that the Apostle John was the only one who apparently died of natural causes, not like everybody else who was scourged and beaten and was killed in some other way. But the Apostle John is sent or exiled to Patmos Island. He writes the book of Revelation, and then the last years or months of his life he returns to Ephesus, where he dies and is buried in the same city where Mary, the mother of Jesus, was also buried. Now this is how I had it in my report, and I recognize now that that is a controversial issue, but I left it there to bring something controversial to you today. Where is Mary, the mother of Jesus, buried? Because there are different theories and everybody claims that they have the right one. But this is also a possibility, especially if we look at from the cross perspective, where Jesus looks at Mary and John and tells him, look at your mother and look at your son, right? So there is a possibility to have this, and that's the end of the parenthesis. So in his last years, John is in old age, maybe in his 90s, and cannot take care of himself. He is in bed, he has friends, brothers and sisters surrounding him, caregivers, and he keeps repeating this particular phrase: little children, love one another. Little children, love one another. And he says it repeatedly again and again, to a point where his disciples and his followers and friends became irritated by it. And they say at one point, John, why do you keep repeating the same thing again and again? And John says to them, little children, because if you do this, you fulfill the command of God, and this is enough if you do this. Now, again, it is church tradition, but if it is true, then on his deathbed, what John had on his mind was reflecting on the Last Supper and the words of Jesus when Jesus said to them, little children, I shall be with you a little more, and I'll leave you with a great commandment, that you love one another as I have loved you, because this is how they will know that you are my disciples. Do you feel like this would be something that Jesus would tell you as well? You go through health issues, right? You go to struggles. You go to broken relationships, maybe addictions, depression. You lose a loved one. And you're like, Lord, I cannot take this anymore. Please remove the thorn from my flesh and let me go, because I don't want to take this anymore. And Jesus says, do not kick against the goats. My love, or my grace, is sufficient for you. Maybe you feel that this is too much, but you still have, while you are on this earth, some TLC, right? Tender care and love. You need to love one another. It is a very, very difficult task, especially in this age we live in. Because in this age, the brotherly love is almost inexistent. We call it me generation, where everything surrounds around how is this good for me? How is this beneficial to me? And it's very easy to deceive ourselves in believing that we are good Christians, right? We are faithful Christians. We just neglect loving one another because we do not have to. The world has changed, right? In evangelism class we say, and we repeat it, he who does not love does not know God. For God is love. And you should love one another, Jesus says here, with agape love. And I'll make a short parenthesis here because I said it in the past, and I will later on when we get to that text where Peter is reinstated. But we know that the Greek language differentiates with different words between different types of love. And we have the phileo type of love, which is similar to I like you, a friendly love, right? Then we have the storge type of love, which is more a familiar love that parents have toward their children and vice versa, which they say is different than what we have toward our friends, right? And then when they have the eros love, which is a more romantic love. And lastly, the highest form of love, according to what the Greeks believed and the word they used for, is the agape love. And the agape love is the ultimate love. It's not only that I love you, it means I love you even at a cost. I love you even if it will cost me a lot. I love you even if I have to die for you. And this is the love that Jesus is talking about. And he says, well, you should love your brethren with the same, or your brothers and sisters with the same love. And this, at its core, it's very, very different from the love that other religions teach. Because in every religion, if you look at it from one perspective or another, they teach us some type of love. Like, for example, in Islam, they are taught, when they said that they should love one another, what they mean by it, that they should show mercy toward others and giving alms to the poor, or treating others justly. In Buddhism and Hinduism, love means compassion for every form of life. But you see how much this is different from the love that God put it as a law in the Old Testament when he said, you should love your brethren as yourself. And Jesus repeats that. And he says, I will give you a commandment that you love one another. And by this, they will know you, that you love one another. They will know you are my disciple. Now, obviously, I cannot skip over this without asking if you feel that this love is something that God would require of you too. Do you love one another, or do you tolerate one another? Do you do something for someone without without expecting something in return. When was the last time you did something to someone without expecting anything in return? Because, dear brethren, I have to tell you that the disciples of Jesus, when they understood the words of Jesus, they practiced it. And their testimony in the 1st and 2nd century at least, it was very, very powerful by action. When they were persecuted, right, during the Roman Empire, they were accused of atheism. How they would be accused of atheism? They didn't believe in the Roman gods. So they were falsely accused of being atheists. What did they do? They were accused that because they believed God is the highest authority, they were accused of conspiring against the emperor because they believe someone is higher than the emperor. Then they were accused of incest because they called one another brothers and sisters, and some of them were married, and quickly who wanted to attack them attacked them. They were accused of cannibalism because they were eating the body of Jesus Christ, right? And drinking the blood of Jesus. So when all these things happened, it was not easy to stay strong and love your neighbor as yourself. Yet they did it. And Tertullian in the 2nd century, he writes in his famous work Apologies, where he's defending Christianity, and he says, do you see how they love one another and how they are ready to die for one another? This is a testimony from 2nd century about how Christians lived. How much difficult would be a similar statement about us in the 21st century? It's not easy to love one another with a love that is willing to sacrifice itself. But that's what we are called to. And I understand the difficulties because they come into our lives. And I remember all the great promises of God that He has given me. Especially, right, that not even a hair can fall off my head without the will of my God. Yet, when difficulties hit, when loss happens, when health issues arrive, I act like I never heard this before. I never confessed this before, right? It's so easy to forget about the fact that God is in our lives, that He gave all these beautiful promises. We forget about this because difficulties hit. But we should focus on His promises. And Peter, he's a little bit, again, very zealous. And he says, Lord, you said we cannot follow you. Why can we not follow you? You see, Peter is focused on material things. Jesus is talking about glory. He's talking about going to another place that they cannot come. And all what Peter, he is like, what do you mean I cannot go there? I'm willing to die for you, to lay down my life for you. What do you mean I cannot follow you? And Jesus says, well, are you really willing to follow me? Are you really willing to die for me? Because I tell you, by tomorrow morning, you will deny that you know me. You knew me 3 times. Ever knew me. You will deny me on 3 separate occasions. And again, this is us. When in our natural condition we believe more of ourselves than we ought to do. And I just mentioned earlier how easy it is to us to say that we believe that God is in control of our lives, yet the moment difficulties hit, we forgot about all those promises. Here, Peter doesn't believe that he would deny knowing Jesus when he just said that he's about to die. But he learns it. He learns it the hard way. But what is more important is that Peter is not left in this condition, because as I mentioned, Jesus restores him. He is restored on 3 occasions and put into ministry. And the same Christ who predicted the denial when resurrected put him back and worked to him. So we have a rooster on the top of the steeple of our Reformed churches. And the reason for that is this: to remind us not to be puffed up, in trusting ourselves more than we should. Because it is so easy to say that I'll do this and I'll do that. But when difficulties come, when we are tested, we turn out to be so much weaker than we anticipated that we were. So the rooster on the top of the steeples remind us that it is human to make errors like this, as Peter did. But more importantly, it is there to remind us not to trust ourselves, but only in Jesus. Glory be to him. Amen.